Writing on wall by Mr.Tom Standage. The resource person for today's FDP is Assistant Professor Frank Krishner. Before we move ahead, let us close our eyes for a short prayer. Heavenly God, our Father and Mother, as we are gathered in this FDP, we place ourselves before you. Help us to value and appreciate those we are gathered with. May your light enfold us. May your spirit guide us. May your grace abound us. Amen. Kindly open your eyes. Thank you. We have with us our chief guest come observer, Professor Shankar Dutt, who needs no introduction. He is Professor of English at Patna University, the former chairman of Bihar Sangeet Natak Academy, and former principal of College of Arts. He has been a UGC, British Council, and American Center resource person for English studies, and has lectured and chaired seminars at various eminent institutions. He is on the advisory board, governing body, board of studies, and a consultant for various international educational organizations. He is writer and editor. His publications are in areas of cultural studies and liberation literature. He has been honored with a number of awards, including Best Teacher Award by Patna University, the Frank Anthony Award for his teaching, research, and citizenship. And in December 2016, with the Distinguished Zaveri Award. We welcome you, sir. With this, I would like to invite Assistant Professor Frank Krishner to take over. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. At first, my apologies for not being there in person. I was there in the morning, but unfortunately, I could not remain with you. So my apologies. Today, the whole reason for me basically presenting this book to you is because I'm excited about it because it deals with history not from the perspective of kings or kingdoms, but rather from the perspective of everyday people. And also, it's a book which will help us to understand history and to understand how the footprints of history impact us even today. So, actually, my presentation, I'll go ahead with that. It's called History Retweets Itself. And it's a quick walk through social media developments from 51 BC to let us see how far we go. Now, just imagine, okay, it is July 51 BC, and you have this Roman statesman and a great orator, Marcus Tullius Cicero, okay? He arrives in Cilicia. Now, Cilicia is somewhere where, modern southeast Turkey is, okay? And he is there to take up the post of proconsul or governor, okay? And, Cicero is deeply involved with the entire politics, the entire plotting and counter-plotting, of Roman politics. See, at that time, you see, The burning question of the day was whether Julius Caesar, who was in charge of the Roman army, whether he would actually march on Rome, okay, and would he make a grab for power. But unfortunately, Cicero couldn't be there in Rome at that time, okay, because he had to take up this assignment. So now, how does he keep in touch with all the things that are happening, in Rome? So that is the whole thing, you know. And at that time, there were no printing presses, there were no paper and all that. So information was circulated by the exchange of letters and tablets, which were basically written on papyrus, maybe, or on wax tablets. And these would be sent with friends, to friends, recopied, and so on and so forth. So you see, information was would flit from place to place, and there was no postal service. So people basically depended upon messengers, friends of friends to take information forward. So you see what happens in modern terms. What is actually happening? You see that Cicero actually was basically participating in a social media system. And what's a social media system? It is an environment in which information was passed from one person to another along social connections and to create a distributed discussion or community. And so, this is what we are going to talk about when we talk about how history retweets itself. Now, one of the important things is one of the most interesting things is this. As you see, that humans appear to be wired for sharing. You know, that is how, why. You see, because look at us today. Most probably, we have been all glancing at our WhatsApp messages. How can we not? How can we ignore the WhatsApp messages, right? We have WhatsApp groups for faculty members. We have WhatsApp group for our friends and other people. We constantly, as you very well know, teachers and friends out there, we are constantly networking. Okay, so social networking sites have become a routine part of our daily lives. And about 90% of all internet users use social networking sites of some sort. And of course, the younger ones, they intend to use the social sites to communicate with their friends. Or the other older people may use these sites to stay in touch with their families, to get information, and so on and so forth. Now, what all these sites have in common, they allow information to be shared with friends and followers, and they allow discussion to take place around this shared information. So basically, what is community? The community isn't in one place, it's a distributed community. So, now what makes social networks enjoyable and compelling? Now, there are a few reasons for this. The first reason, and I'll put it very shortly, anthropologically, if you look at it, that humans are inherently social animals. So the primate brains, the brains of apes and other primates, okay, they appear to have evolved specifically to process information. And of course, we as the top in the primate order, so we also, our brains appear to be evolved specifically to process social information, okay, and that is how primates, we effectively we function effectively in groups. Now, the second reason why uh, people say that we are wired for networking is this, that humans, we assess and maintain a position within social networks primarily by exchanging information with and about others. Now, remember when we go to a Facebook place or even on our WhatsApp groups, or even before, and we still, some of us do have email groups, and so we look out, and certain people in these groups, they gain a status because they keep exchanging information, they exchange gossip, okay? So, and through this exchange, individuals can advertise their status within the group and also suitably as an ally or even as a mate. Okay, this is the second reason why social networks are very compelling things, whatever the social network may be. Now, then of course, we come with media technology, but media technology actually starts with writing. Okay, the very days, the very time in history when people began writing, media technology began evolving, and it enables literate humans to extend information and exchange information across time and space to include people who are not physically present. When you write a letter, you can basically, it transcends time and space. The person who receives it can read about it. You can include people who are not physically present, and so on. Now, of course, we come to the internet with its global reach, and because the internet has evolved now, and so internet enables us to share very effectively. It allows others to share information with great ease, unprecedented ease. Now we can share information uh, very, very easily. But the internet is by no means the first technology to have supported such a social media environment. It's merely the most recent and the most efficient way that humans have found, as we say, to scratch a prehistoric itch. Okay, so this is what we will be talking about. Now we come to something that the author Tom Standage has written, and I will read it out. The compelling nature of social media can be traced back in part to the evolution of the social brain as monkeys and other primates have evolved over the past 35 million years, in part to the exchange of gossip following the emergence of human language around 100,000 years ago, and in part to the origins of writing about 5,000 years ago. So, this can be the compelling nature of social media can be traced back to these roots. These are the three ancient foundations on which the social sharing of media, whether using papyrus scrolls in ancient Roman times or the internet today, has rested over the past 2 millennia. So basically, the book that I will be basing today's session is there on the screen before you. It is by Tom Standage. The name of the book is Writing on the Wall: Social Media, the First 2,000 Years. Now, Tom Standage is a journalist and author. He's a graduate of Oxford University, and he is also a science and technology writer, and he has great experience, as you see, The Guardian, The Economist. He's been published widely, and he has the following books that he has written: The Turk, Life and Times of the 18th Century Chess Player, The Victorian Internet, The Neptune Files, History of the World in Six Glasses, The Future of Technology, An Edible History of Humanity, and the book that we will be introducing to you actually, Writing on the Wall, Social Media, the First 2000 Years. Now, how did this shared media dawn? Standage says basically that the development of writing was pioneered not by gossip, storytellers, poets, or by accountants. So he says that around the Neolithic period, around 9500 BC, when humans began to switch from a nomadic life to a more settled lifestyle, so you know this happened at least in the West around the what is called the Fertile Crescent, that is modern day Egypt to southeastern Turkey, and also towards the Iran-Iraq border. So this was the place where the New Stone Age period began, and here, looking at the survival excavation stuff which has come out, we find that there were clay tokens uh, there which were unearthed, and you could see that these clay tokens had transactions on them. So basically, the first written document dates around 3400 BC from Mesopotamia, and these clay documents you find the allocations of bread, beer rations, tax payments using simple symbols and marks on clay tablets. Then, over the next 500 years, writing evolved to become more powerful and more expressive. And first, as we all know, that the first type of writing were pictograms. They were just like hieroglyphics, they were pictures, and then it gave way to ideograms, which were abstract symbols. And around 3100 BC, some of these ideograms were being used to stand in for particular sounds. And Standage says it's probably because people needed to write people's names. So then they began having these ideograms stand for certain sounds. Then by 2600 BC, we see that the Egyptian hieroglyphic system, it exists along with what we call cuneiform writing. And this writing system, had become flexible enough to record hymns, religious texts, collections of advice, and some of the earliest letters date from this period, 2600 BC and after. Now, around 1800 BC, purely alphabetic writing was evolving from the Canaanite script, and this was divided by the Phoenicians, who were trading people, and they were seafaring people, and they were traders. So this began spreading, and so by the 8th century, 800 years BC, we find that ancient Greece has literacy and what is called the true alphabet, the earliest true alphabet. That means there are symbols for consonants and vowel sounds. So a true alphabet has symbols with both consonant sounds and vowel sounds. And by the time we come to 100 BC, the Romans absorbed all this, and actually the Romans overshadowed Greek culture. And literacy was moderately widespread, and educated Romans were confident users of the written word in both formal as well as informal context. So now we come to what we call the Roman media. You see, by the first century BC, as I said in the beginning, when we started, we basically found that Rome had become the undisputed master of the Mediterranean, and its influence grew. And as its influence grew, the political system came under increasing strain because Rome was basically a small city state. So its governance was that of a small city state. But now Rome starts basically annexing a whole lot of other territory. So what happens? Here you come to plots, rebellion, civil war, and of course, these are the threats. So the fortune of Rome's vast territory. So they depended on personal ties. So the thing is this that as we see here, personal ties were important. And how could these personal ties be kept up? It would be kept up because of transmission of written documents from place to place, from person to person. So, you know, this is how things would go on. So, to keep up with the latest developments and stay on the right side of these constant plotting and machinations could literally be a matter of life and death. We know this historically. We see Cicero, we see Julius Caesar, and these two were avid letter writers, as well as these two were the one of, I mean, both of them were basically very, very important personages when it comes to the history of Rome. And so now, when we look at these things, you see how important written correspondence is for Rome's ruling class. You see, within the city of Rome, information would be exchanged in person, maybe at the forum, maybe at elaborate dinner parties, and also outside the city, when people were there, they would send their slaves with messages and so on and so forth. So these messages were at times formal, at times they were informal, and one very interesting thing is there, that both Caesar and Cicero, they were such uh, avid letter writers. They wouldn't actually write letters by themselves, but they would have scribes and messengers who would copy the letters or would send messages. And the thing is this that Cicero as well as Caesar, they were known to constantly dictate messages and letters, even between the courses of their meals. So between meals also, when the soup has just finished and the fish is going to be served, letters or messages, or you would have slaves coming in and reading messages, and they would reply to these messages, and scribes would be copying them down. So, as very interestingly, Tom Standage says that the slaves were the Roman equivalent of broadband because all the time there were constantly a stream of slaves taking messages from one house to another, running from one place to another, getting back responses from the person, and so on and so forth. So, this is very interesting. He said the slaves were like the Roman equivalent of broadband. Now, all of us, we are quite used to, and some of us frown on the use of abbreviations and messages. And we have all these abbreviations which are being used, recent nowadays. But if you look at Roman correspondence, we find that these abbreviations were even used at that time. Okay? SPD, okay, Salute Templorem Dicit, which means sends many greetings, as in Marcus Dexter SPD. Then we have SVBWV, Si valid, bene est, ego value. If you are well, that is good, I am well. So today we use, BTW, AFIK, etc. in the internet posts and text messages, but we can find the roots of these things in ancient Roman correspondence as well. So now you see here there's a variation in tone of Roman correspondence. So the different kinds of correspondence were there. For example, Cicero's 900 surviving letters, there are some in formal tones, there are some in friendly tones. There are different kinds of tones which were used. So that's why, and then Cicero had his entire web of contemporaries, and messages would go back and forth. They would copy each other's letters and send them on to even others. And then from them, comments on those letters and their ideas would come all the way back via messengers or via scribes and so on. Now, one interesting thing, as you see on the screen, is the wax tablet. And if you look at this wax tablet, it looks strikingly similar to an iPad or to um, or to this computer tablets. Okay, so this was wax, and the wax was mounted on the wooden frame, and then you would scratch messages into the wax. Okay, and then when you would send it off, and when it reached its destination, the person you have written to would read the message, erase that wax, and again scribble his or her own message into the wax and send it back to you. So letters which were written over longer distances were written on papyrus. Now papyrus was about 6 inches wide, 10 inches tall, but it was also a bit expensive. But short distance messages could be sent on these wax tablets. So from wax tablets to modern day tablets. Now, the rich, of course, dictated and exchanged letters. Ordinary citizens who wrote on walls. Okay, and so as we see over here, that the walls of Roman towns were covered with written messages, graffiti, including advertisements, political slogans, and personal messages of all kinds. Okay, so people in those days did not really take these messages which were written on the wall as defacement. They did not take these messages as okay, somebody is defacing the wall. As a matter of fact, many people actually wrote on their own wall, and there were the inside of walls. The inside part of the walls also were used for messages for friends or for relatives and all that. So this was another interesting thing that we come to know when we read this very interesting book on social media in olden times. And how do we get this writing on the wall? So in many towns, the plaster has not survived. But you see, when Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 AD and it buried two towns, Pompeii and Herculaneum, under volcanic ash, and
Sorry to intervene, sir. We are
yes,
running short of time, so I would request you to wind up.
sure.
Thank you.
So then we understand that this also was very interesting. So as I said, I've already spoken about this. Graffiti was not considered as defacement as it is today, and of course, but historians ignore graffiti. They were rather sniffy about the value of these messages. They said, why these are not very important messages. But today, researchers have recognized the great potential to cast light on everyday lives and social interactions of Roman citizens. So here are some of these things. Celadus, the Roman gladiator, makes all the girls sigh. At Nuceria, I won so many denarii by gaming. Fair play. On April 19, I made bread. The man I'm having dinner with is a barbarian. Artemis got me pregnant. Famous Nicolanius, go hang yourself. Virgil to a friend, Tertius, you are disgusting. Sarah, you are not being very nice, leaving me all alone like this. So as we see, it sounds very much like our own kind of social media interaction. So successor of Weaver loves the innkeeper's slave girl named Iris. She, however, does not love him. Still, he begs her to have pity on him. The rival row writes on the same wall, "Bye, loser." Then the response, "Envious one, why do you get in the way? Submit to a handsomer man who is being treated very wrongly and is darn good looking. Reply, I have spoken. I have written all there is to say. You love Iris, but she does not love you. To successors, see above. Tavern. So now I think because we don't have much time, I will basically be stopping what I am basically wanting to do about. And thank you so much for being such an attentive audience. Um, Now I will end with by saying that please try to get hold of this book and other books by Tom Standage. It was really, really interesting, and it will probably help you to relate certain important points of history even to students, no matter what the stream is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So, can we have questions for discussion?
Okay, I'll just in a second. It was at the end of my PowerPoint, but I just a minute. Just a minute. I'll just get that in a second. Just in a second. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So there are two questions. Should the retelling of history from a people's perspective replace traditional history in schools? And the relevance of disseminating historical information in a contemporary fashion.
Thank you, sir. So now these questions are there for discussion. So this open to the house. If anyone would like to answer the first question, sorry. Should the retelling of history from a people's perspective replace the traditional history books in schools? This is the first question. So anyone would like to answer this question? And I would request you to come forward so that you will be audible. This question in the house. Yes, Father, sister.
When we talk about history, history is something very objective. History is something very objective because it's the historical facts, evidences. But when you say story from your perspective, it becomes an individual opinion, individual point of view, individual perspective. But when you talk about history, this should be objective. I don't agree with that. We should go for the traditional way of things. We should refer to the traditional history books.
Thank you, Father. Anyone else would like to express his or her views? Yes, Shamila ma'am. when we talk about retelling of history from people's perspective, then I think the first thing that we should think about is how we create the data. Like when we talk about the partition, so even the partition of India and Pakistan has a history of its own. But how will we gather the data? There may be few people alive who will be left, and how we recollect their stories? And then we talk about replacing them in traditional history books. So how will we verify whatever claims those people are making? So I think these are the two concerns with Standage. Thank you, Shankar. Is anyone else? Yes,
if history is all about facts, dates, and years, then we would need for object which is not really history or subject. For history is not only about year, dates, and years. It's the way a person, any background, has perceived the event to be. Interpretation takes place. And usually the so-called history we get, as Max has said, is from the kings or group of people who had monopoly over knowledge or literacy and so on. Not from those who did not have. That's where this writing on the wall makes a big difference. Those were common people. So the history from another group of people, another perspective, is also to be understood, is to be taken seriously. Therefore, it makes sense.
Thank you, Father. Is anyone else?
I would know that 10 minutes for each question. So please come forward, express your opinion with no ego. It's not all opinions, it's interpretations. Nothing wrong or right here.
But I think personally is when we are talking of from people's perspective rather than traditional histories and so on. When we talk about people's perspective, it becomes indivisible centric. So their thoughts, their perceptions, their way of thinking. So it might become a bit biased. And when we talk about traditional history, I think it's open to everybody, as Father said, and we come to a situation where everybody has something to share. So I would also prefer that it's better that we go to history books rather than going to people sensing or people perspective. That would be better for me. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madhana. Yes, Anurag.
Good afternoon, sir. First question, should the retelling of history from a people's perspective replace the traditional history books in schools? I believe yes. We need to replace those history books. Because now we talk about, individuals' emotions. Now we talk about, we have seen our professors talking about how, we can historicize things. We need to rehistoricize things. When it comes to rehistoricizing, the past or the history that we have been talking about, what is it that actually makes us or pushes us, to rehistoricize things? That's the main concern which we always forget about. Now, what about the traditions that we are following? I'm talking about the traditional values. There is nothing, no, not any history as such, no history books guide us that what to do and what not to do. The cultural traditions that we are following, it is handed over to us, over the years, we have seen that this happens after this, and this is what we are following. It doesn't matter whether we follow one particular direction or not, but we follow and we respect each other's decisions. So, in my point of view, in my opinion, I think that we need to this is the demand of our contemporary time. Thank you, sirs. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Yes, so let's say.
Nice way of interpreting. But to me, whether you talk about people's history, you talk about king's history, it is elitist history. Because we have never focused, not even today, we are not focusing on the working class who really molds the society, molds the civilization. But even when we talk about the values, the culture, the traditions, we set it from above and believe that everyone else will follow the same things, same traditions, same customs, same civilization. Okay. So actually it is elitism. It is one class dominating the other and superimposing its own history on everyone else. So that should change. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I think we should move to the exam. Yes, Nihari. So see, I appreciate Brian sir with this question because this question is quite interesting. And if the look at the question, first of all, it came in my mind that why to change the history? It's very difficult to change the history and with the people's perspective. Why do we read this history? Connect with our past, connect with our roots, and also to know about our own history. This is the purpose to learn the history in the history books. But the question is asking to us, should the retelling of history from a people's perspective, whether it will replace the traditional history book in schools or no? So history, if we are studying this history books, there are events. And if you are looking at the event, your own perspective, the perspective may change. Like the man said about the India, Pakistan, and division and all. So we have different perspectives. Sometimes it helps also because with the different perspectives, you will come out with some other reasons also. And it will give you a new way to the history itself. This is my personal opinion. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. Yes, Father Martin.
Britain history is only one part of history. They've got so many other traditions. They've got oral traditions, they've got conventions. So, no part of history can give you a complete picture of an event. So, therefore, I will averse towards the word replace. What is the guarantee that you have that it's what's being replaced is going to give you a complete picture? So, we must have multiple sources which can complement each other. So that is what I would not one tradition replacing another tradition, but each tradition complementing the other tradition so that we get a complete picture of it. That's my view.
Thank you, Father Martin. So let's move to the second question. The question is, what is the relevance of disseminating historical information in a contemporary classroom? This question is open to the house.
Sir, to me, history has been more misused than used for our knowledge, for our information. In every era, you will find that this is my history, and this history is not good, so let us change it. Okay, we have lost objectivity. I do not like, therefore this cannot be another history. It happened. Now we have to rely on the sources. How these things were, objectified, how things were, brought into the discourse, and what is the reliability of it. So when we talk about, how to disseminate, that is what is happening. This history was written by someone else. That someone was having some other perspective. Our perspective was lost, so let us rewrite it.
I think, I mean, that objectivity should be respected. That is how you can really, be proud of those controversies. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Anyone else want to start conversation?
Isn't it statement or question?
I'm reading the question. What is the relevance of disseminating historical information in contemporary class? In answer to the second question, what I feel is when we talk about our ancestors in our family, we also try to make our kids aware as to who our ancestors were, my father, my great grandfather, my great father. And it's very important that we as an individual expect that our children know about that. So it's important that colleges like St. Xavier's College who is coming across students who are not familiar with most of these places. So it's important that we are spreading whatever our history is with regards to the information that we are sharing with our students. So it's in a way we are trying to make the students aware as to what our origin, our history is. And it is relevant. We should know what the actual history is. So it's relevant as far as the knowledge of the topic is concerned. Thank you, Malala.
Of course, it's relevant. It's not only in terms of BA history, every stream, computer science, engineering, history is important. The only thing I have already mentioned here is not just one perspective of history, one view of history that is to be taken into consideration. There are different versions, different perspectives, all could be presented and let the reader, let the person who studies have a choice to choose and to understand, to interpret what he or she wants. Therefore, all the conflicting situations and interpretations, reinterpretations, which could be because of political compulsions and so on, whatever, relevance is very much there. We need to study history from different perspectives.
Thank you, Father. Anyone else? I would like to answer this question. I think it is relevant to give historical information in contemporary classroom because in all fields, even in computer science also, we take historical data and then we interpret and analyze for further decision making policies. So I think it is not only for arts stream, but it is relevant for all the streams which usually classroom has. So that's all from my side. Anyone else? Yes, Aruna ma'am.
Yes, we should disseminate historical information. Reason because there's so many things we learn from our past. Like we can just tell our students today what Gandhi was, one man can give position. How he could do something, a very simple person. So many examples which can inspire our students. What happens in two ranks of the country? What kind of count system was there? So we have to know this was our historical power. India was a nation, a very different kind of nation. So there are a lot of things which we should, but the things are here. It's a challenge for us. When we show it to a movie, these historical facts, these people are very famous. But then when we're discussing in the past, then it's especially as far as I mentioned, that if there are student knowledge, okay, so they want syllables, they want focus, I have to write it down, I will go material. Most of us are just connected with already have discussed about social media. And very times students are not aware of all this. that is missing now. It should be disseminated in our house, in our classroom. The challenge is how they are doing this. That is a big challenge, especially as it is written in 6 in a technical college, management college, how we are going to this. Like we don't have GS in ourselves. Unfortunately, we are just providing degrees. Unfortunately, our education system is just degrees. So here we are facing things that we need to see different ways how we can do this. Of course, no question in disability, but what will be the way that this that is otherwise I hope that our generation will grow it to learn and know about that will be our informing we are listening. Thank you, Pratima ma'am.
Okay, so here we are ending with this question answer session. Thank you, Frank sir. So now I request Professor Shankar to share his experience and gives his valuable suggestions. Sir, over to you. Sir, you have not unmuted yourself.
Am I audible now?
Yes, yes. Over
Okay.
to you, sir.
First of all, I'd like to thank St. Clair's principal, dean, the department, uh, to attend this particular session, which, in my mind, was very, very highly rewarding. It was a wonderfully rewarding, informative, and well. Mr. Frank Krishner began with the fact that wired for sharing. And he went to Cicero, the wonderful classical humanist of his time, who talked about uh, information sharing as a part of a system of distribution. And gradually, scripts developed, and that also accounted for the exchange of information cutting across time and space. The development of the script was well elucidated, starting with the Canaanite scripts that were devised by the traders of the Levant and spread by the Phoenician sailors. One of the things that Tom Standage, of course, writing from a very European point of view, misses out on is the value of the Indus Valley script, because the Indus Valley script is absolutely crucial to our understanding of the symbiotic relationship between culture and agriculture. This script was known as the boustrophodon, and the manner in which the script went was from left to right and back again from right to left and then moving across to the right again. Just the manner in which an agricultural field is plowed. So that becomes very, very significant in establishing the relationship between agriculture. Remember, it was an agricultural community. Beings developed from the hunting, gathering to the agricultural stage. The script became far more formalized at that point in time. I was honestly very saddened that time cut short Mr. Frank Krishner's presentation. And probably it would have been wiser to have given more time to him to complete what he had to say, because it was very, very interesting. The kind of relationship that he was able to establish between modern day text messages, often, of course, those that have resulted in spelling and syntactical mutiny, and the scripts of the earlier times. And he talked about the wax tablets, the papyrus for long distance communication, and interestingly, writing on the wall, which is very similar to graffiti. And of course, there is a lot of debate associated with graffiti. Some people do believe that it defaces walls. Other people do believe that's a very democratic way of public expression. Then, of course, the important things about the development of communication through the written language gets underway with the 15th century Gutenberg and then the Caxton's printing press at Westminster, which happens in Great Britain. So it was, to my mind, an absolutely fascinating presentation, which I immensely enjoyed. Also, I would like to get down to a fairly contested area of discussion, and that is related to history, because that took a fair bit of time towards the close of the participate the entire event. And history, of course, is a very, very highly contested terrain of passionate debates, not only history, but also historiography. And we must remember that history is often written by the victors. History normally, if it's well written, it mediates between global events and common people as they experience their lives. In the early 1970s, a group of Puerto Rican historians stated that the available written history was only a part of our history, and it neglected the anonymous people who, in their collective acts, their works, their daily lives, and their fellowships, have forged our society through centuries. The invisibilization of the anonymous may be exemplified in Russia when the Tsar when he was told about Pushkin's intention of writing the history of a peasant leader called Pugachev. He said with imperial disdain, such a man has no history. In India, in the part of the country in which we are located, the example of Birsa Munda's neglect in traditional history is absolutely glaring. Recently, a national leader of dubious historical literacy, during the course of a visit to Bankura in West Bengal, garlanded the statue of a tribal hunter, thinking it to be the statue of Birsa Munda. The de-elitization of history will result in disciplinary inclusivity and hence be relevant to our social and cultural lives. We must also remember the root of the word history. And Arnold Toynbee, the British historian, has pointed this out when he says history is a Greek word which means literally investigation. Critical investigation leads to unprejudiced understanding and avoidance of a hubris to repeat the mistakes of history as we advance toward an egalitarian, inclusive, and a plural world order. History, of course, enables us also to resist the many gods. And when I'm talking about the many gods, I'm talking about those who are in positions of power and privilege. And they inhabit the world. And when we challenge them, we best express our humanity. And possibly it's the only way to extend the human lease on planet Earth. I'm absolutely delighted that St. Xavier's College is following the FPD program, which aims at augmenting the academic and intellectual environment in institutions. The institution is expected to provide faculty members opportunities to pursue research and participate in quality seminars, conferences, and workshops in order to update their pedagogical skills. FDP should also strive to build transparency and democratic traditions, so essential to scholarship and the making of good thinking human beings. I'd request you to study the UGC document for FDP for colleges for the 12th plan period and to understand the purpose and significance in rejuvenating higher education from the morass of mediocrity. Today's presentation by faculty member Mr. Frank Krishner highlights the success of such a program. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable suggestions, sharing, and word of appreciation. So now we come to the end of this FTP. First of all, I want to congratulate Mr. Frank Krishner for his wonderful presentation and sharing. I would like to express my profound gratitude to our observer, Professor Shankar for his presence and valuable feedback. I would like to thank our principals, Father Dr. P. Nishant S.J., Vice Principal, Father Dr. Marty Porras S.J., eminent members of management, faculty members, technical team for their support and making this FDP a meaningful one. Last but not the least, I want to thank our support staff for all the necessary arrangements and refreshments. Thank you all. The link for e-certificate will be shared on MS Teams chat box and official WhatsApp group. The link will be active for 30 minutes. Kindly fill the feedback form to get the certificate. Thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Shankar, and our resource person, Frank Krishna, the Dean Academics, Kamala, the moderator, and the technical team, Mukesh, and everybody here. You are our resource mutants, so you may not have heard our cut. So let us clap everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Frank, sir, can you hear me? So have you